Well, the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting from there. So Hamdah Salhut joins me now from the Jordanian capital, Amman. Hamdah, talk us through what we've now been hearing from the Israelis.
Well, we've been hearing from Israel's defense ministry as well as the army chief of staff. Let's begin with that meeting at the Kiryat in Tel Aviv. That's Israel's version of the Pentagon. It's the defense ministry, where we did have a situational assessment held by Yoav Gallant, the country's defense minister, along with several generals from Israel's Northern Front Command and the army chief of staff, Herzi Halevi. Now, in a readout from the defense ministry, Gallant had emphasized that Israel is looking to combat the Iranian drone threat in all possible ways, and that Israel should be prepared for all possible scenarios. Additionally, the army chief of staff has said that Israel is preparing itself on the ground to the maximum highest alert, and that they are ready for a wide range of possibilities, ready to make what he's calling the right decision. Now, all of this comes as Herzi Halevi, the military chief of staff, was touring Israel's north earlier today, essentially downplaying the video that Hezbollah had showed nearly 10 minutes long, showing sensitive military areas within northern Israel and even showing Iron Dome missile defense batteries. Now, Halevi there was saying that Hezbollah is, quote, not aware of the military capabilities that Israel still has, and that any capabilities Hezbollah has, Israel's are greater. But the reality of the situation is we actually don't know what kind of military and weapons capabilities Hezbollah has, because we haven't really seen it. So the army is downplaying what is going to happen next, really, with Hezbollah. But it is worth mentioning that the generals from Israel's Northern Command who did approve these new battle and attack plans for what they're calling an offensive in Lebanon were at this meeting with Yoav Gallant, in which they're saying they are prepared for war.
Well, all the latest from the Israeli side there from Hamdah Salhut. A reminder, as I was saying earlier, the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from operating Israel. That's why Hamdah was joining us there from neighbouring Jordan. Well, let's bring in Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera senior political analyst. He's joining us today from Paris. Marwan, what do you make of the threats we're hearing from both Hezbollah and Israel? How close are we to all-out war here?
We don't know. I mean, that's the short answer, right? But certainly we are getting closer and closer to it. Because of the escalation that's going on. And every time there is an escalation, we all jump in and say, well, here we are. We're getting closer to perhaps an all-out war, because even if they're not intended to do it intentionally, basically, they could still happen by mistake, right? By some major killing of major proportions of people in Lebanon or in Israel, and that will simply lead to an escalation, because neither side will be able to simply, withhold whatever the limits are. But again, we've been there and we've been said that. We've been saying that the past, several months. I remember. With each time, that American-Israeli envoy came to Lebanon back in, November, January, and March, and this is the fourth time. Around those times, there was always a bit of an escalation, and then we talked about the threat of a widening war. Now, the thing that you hear from Hezbollah is basically an attempt not to go to an all-out war. That's why you hear such screaming, such warning, such threat, because it's meant to be as a deterrence. If you go out on all-out war, well, expect an all-out war.
Well, Marwan, Israel is also right now grappling with growing tensions, not only with Hezbollah, but with the US. I see the White House has reportedly cancelled a fairly high-level meeting after Netanyahu released that video saying that Washington is withholding military aid. Where is that relationship now?
Okay, so this is, of course, another front. I think we're dealing here with a number of fronts. You and I have spoken earlier about the legal aspect of things, about the geopolitical aspect of things. And with Lebanon, Israel, we're talking about strategy and war. And here, in the case of Israel, US, we're talking about the politics.
Yeah.
It's not about the strategy. It's not about geopolitics. It's about the politics of Netanyahu and his government, the politics of Netanyahu and his systematic pathological lying, backstabbing, cheating prime minister, right? So just as he did with Obama, now he's doing with Biden, despite the unprecedented support for Israel by the Biden administration. Netanyahu is clearly preparing for the day after Biden, or preparing for the day after Biden to happen, which is Trump. Because the video that he did could easily be used as propaganda by the Republican Party, by the Trump campaign against Biden, by saying we are, the solid ally of the United States, and we're not getting the weapons we need, even though they've gotten billions upon billions of dollars of weapons, including the 2,000-pound bombs and so on and so forth. So Netanyahu is basically preparing the way forward. If the Biden administration, as we know it, succumbs, and it seems like from Blinken's declaration, it's succumbing yet again to the humiliation of the pathological liar in Tel Aviv. Or worse comes to worse, they lash against Netanyahu, but Netanyahu becomes friends with Trump as the election nears.
Marwan, I couldn't help but notice in this video, the man who's essentially asking for these 2,000-pound bombs to, quote, finish the job, he's supposedly also the man who the US says has signed up to a ceasefire deal?
But you see, this is the thing, right? I mean, the most recent report this morning from the New York Times, right, underlines the fact that Secretary Blinken could not get Netanyahu to state unequivocally that he supports the proposal. Imagine, after all the back and forth, since 11th of May, and later on since the UN resolution was adopted by the UN Security Council, and still there is no clear statement from Israel, public or apparently private, because Blinken kept telling us and the rest of the world that, in fact, Netanyahu is on board. But in the New York Times report this morning, no, it's not clear at all that Netanyahu is on board with the American proposal, with the UN Security Council resolution. So once again, we are dealing with a pathological liar. He made a career out of his lying since he first became prime minister in 1996. Every single Israeli politician today can testify to the fact that he was either stabbed in the back by him or lied to him. Even his finance minister, right? Smotrich, the sort of the radical of the radical, the fanatic of the fanatics in Israel, the most close radical to Netanyahu today. Smotrich have called Netanyahu the liar of all liars. You can imagine that, the idea that Netanyahu would stab Biden in the back after 8 months of unconditional support, after the Biden administration going out of its way to do basically everything possible, including, excuse my expression, prostituting itself in favor of Israel's war crimes in Gaza. And still, that's not even enough for the man sitting in Tel Aviv, Mr. Netanyahu, who is more than capable to step over anyone, everywhere, for his career and his for fanatical program in Israel.
Al Jazeera's senior political analyst, Marwan Bishara, joining us again. Thank you very much, Marwan.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.